So good morning. It's good to be here with all of you for World Communion Sunday, and we will talk about that towards the end. But I actually wanted to talk to you about Jesus and money today, because our lectionary has been taking us through all these different parables that Luke has on money that Jesus is preaching. It's collected them all together for us, and the lectionary has moved us over the past, 4 weeks through these different parables. But we don't always then get to stop at the end and say, so what does that all mean? Not the individual passages, but when you take it all together, what does that actually mean in harmony together? So I've taken the parable, the parable of the prodigal son, and I've put it back into the middle, because our lectionary actually takes that one out and puts it in Lent. But this is right in the middle of those 5 different parables that Jesus teaches. And so what does it mean when we look at that as a whole? So we're going to look at that today. I even brought a little bit of a visual aid for us today. I brought a bunch of these coins from a board game so we can use them to talk about money today. All right. So there's 5. I think I'll bring this up here with me so we can all see. Okay. So we got 5 parables that we're going to go through, and I'm going to try just to kind of refresh your memory. I'm going to go through them as quickly as I can while putting them in connection with each other, and then we'll talk about it. So the first one is the person who has hoarded together a bunch of grain and resources and is now going to build a silo and kick back and have the easy life. And the kicker, the punchline is that unbeknownst to him, he's going to die that very day and won't be able to enjoy any of it. And I have to say, of the 5 parables, this one gets me the most. This one is rough. Because, aren't we supposed to save for retirement? And, isn't it, doesn't that kind of sound nice to have worked all life and now you can retire and you can relax and kind of have your little nest egg that you worked so hard for? And then what is the message of this? That we're not to do that or not to have that? So I gotta say, of all the parables, this is the one that calls me out the most. My partner and I are very careful to save, and we've seen our parents save for retirement. We're trying to do that, so not so we could live grandiosely, but just so that we could be at least in comfort in our old age. And are we not supposed to do that? So I find this one, the first of the 5, to be the most challenging for me. What are we supposed to do with that? I will try to answer that, but I'm going to leave it for now in uncertainty so we can move through to the next one. So the next one, I kind of grouped them. There's the lost coin and the lost sheep. And in this one, the person's got 10 coins, loses 1, and then tears apart the house looking for it so that we can find that lost coin or the lost sheep and put it with the rest. That's the restoring of relationship piece. It's less economic than most of the other ones. The interesting economic point about it is that when she finds her 1 coin, she throws a party that's going to cost her at least 4 coins. That's the economic piece. That's like finding a $20 bill in your sofa cushions. I'm going to throw a party. I'm going to invite all my friends. We're going to have pizza. We're going to have drinks. That $20 isn't going to get you there anymore. That's going to start. So that's one economic interesting piece there in that one. But a third one, then, is the one I just read to you today, the parable of the prodigal son. And in that one, we have a farm that's operating well and it's doing okay, and it has workers and pieces like that, but we've got a little bit saved up here, and one of the sons says, split that in half, split that inheritance in half, and I'm going to take mine, and I'm going to go make my fortune. And of course, just squanders it and it's gone. So that's gone, but now we've got this piece left here and the son that's at home. Who are your sympathies with? For me, it's often with the son that's at home. I try to do the right thing. And doesn't it sometimes seem like the person who does the right thing never gets celebrated? It's always the person who's done something wrong that gets the big reward. And doesn't it seem unfair? It feels so unfair at times. And so I get it when that second son is like, this is unfair. I get it. And to add another level to it, right? So if this is the bit that's the remains in the farm and is going to be the inheritance of that second son, if we're throwing a party out of that, where is that money coming from? That's going to be out of the son's future retirement, right? So it's kind of like a double thing. It's like twice over that the son realizes he's paying for this party for the brother who did the wrong thing, and it's frustrating. We'll talk about what that means too in a little bit. Our fourth one is kind of a complicated one. This is the parable of the middle manager. And in that one, there's just like in the previous one, there's a farm that's operating, but this one has a lot of loans. So I'm moving money towards the outside here. We've got a lot of loans out there. So we've got a lot of accounts receivable, and there's not much left in the farm. And so the middle manager hasn't run the ship very well and is in trouble. And so he gets called up by the boss who says, I'm going to fire you. And so what he does, it says, okay, well, my goose is cooked. I am definitely going to lose that job, but I've got all of these loans that are out there with all of these neighbors of mine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them all a sweetheart deal. And what I'm going to remove from their loans is my commission. Because I'm getting fired anyway. I'm not going to see that commission. So I'm going to give you all discounts in order that, so instead of owing all of this, you can be okay if you just pay some of this back, and you get to keep that, and that's my gift on my way out the door. Now the upper management is actually pretty happy with that because they had an accounts receivable problem, and now they do have some of their finances come through. This guy's out of a job, but he was going to be out of a job anyway, and these people are very happy because they've got a sweetheart deal. And so what he has done is he has taken a difficult and bad situation that wasn't going to work out for anybody, and he has exchanged the wealth that's on this table for relationships with his neighbors, with good relationships with his neighbors. And that's what's recognized as being a very shrewd and clever move. We're at the fourth of five. At this point, Jesus is starting to make the big picture point. We've been leading up to it until this point. Now we're really starting to make the point with what this person did. So this one is really important to Jesus' broader message. What did he do? Exchange the wealth on this table for relationships. He valued the relationships above the wealth on the table. So that's a clue. We're going to need that. So the last one, I don't know if you talked about this one in the lectionary last week. It was the rich man and Lazarus. Did we talk about that one? In that story, the rich man has all of this wealth. It's all on his table. There's a very poor Lazarus, the beggar, outside, and none of this, not even one of these little ones, gets given to him. And so he dies hungry, but then the rich man also eventually dies. And we're getting a view then of the afterlife, where Lazarus is lifted up into some sort of eternal rejoicing, and this rich man is descending into the Hebrew understanding of Sheol, maybe our understanding of hell. There's some, if you believe in that, so there's some suffering that's going on here. So we got this kind of disparity of what's happening in the afterlife. And so the point, though, here is the rich man is saying, give me some relief. And it says, I can't do that. He says, well, okay, well, if you can't relieve me, my family now, who's inherited all of this, go to them and tell them it's not worth it. You know, take care of your neighbors. Take care of the people around you. You don't want to end up like I did. Send Lazarus to go tell them. And the response back is, listen, they've already got all of the prophets, all of the text, all of the saints. Everybody is telling them that this isn't worth it and to take care of your neighbors. If they're not going to listen to all of that, what makes you think that they're going to listen to even if a dead person comes and tells them, raises from the dead to tell them? Which is kind of like, we know where the story's coming. That's a big wink about what's coming, right? Because we have Jesus who's going to die and come back and tell us again. So like, what makes us think we'd listen when Jesus tells us is kind of on point, right? That's what we're getting at. Okay. Let's put it all together. Let's put it all together and talk about this. And I'm going to do this by I'm going to tell you a story. These coins here came from a game that I used to play with my buddies back home in Spokane, Washington, where I grew up. And we would all sit around and we'd play this game. And one of my friends at the time, no longer a great friend, this isn't why, but this doesn't help his case. What he would do is at every conceivable opportunity he would cheat. To a point that was just, it was obvious, it was frustrating. We'd get up to get pizza, we'd come back, and suddenly his pile got a little bit bigger. And you're just like, come on, it's just a game. Like, really? It was so frustrating. But this attitude actually continued into other areas of life, and for that is the reason that he's no longer a friend, because he was just himself first, and it was really frustrating. What he was doing, in a very real sense, was he was choosing these worthless little cardboard coins over his friendships. Given the opportunity to make real friends on the world that we're existing in here, in this real world type feeling, he was putting this game world ahead of that. He was focused on this. Anything to get ahead in this world, even if it meant sacrificing the relationships in this world. Does that make sense? And that's what's so silly. He was sacrificing something that has no value for something that has tremendous value. The relationships with his neighbors and the people around him. That's what he was doing. But you go to this world, and what's he going to do? Is he going to take his winnings to the bank and say, look what I got, put this in my account, please? What's that going to do for him, right? It's nothing. It's just cardboard. What the last of those parables did was to pull us up a level in the same way that the world that we're in right now is one level up above this game world where nothing really, where this stuff doesn't matter. And what that last parable is doing is saying there's a world above ours. There's a heavenly world, a divine world. And in that world, the money doesn't really matter. You don't get to take it with you when you go, is often how that's said. But what does matter is the relationships that we make with each other, that the community, that we take care of each other, how we respond to each other's needs and hurts. And so how we behave on this world has implications here, but the objects of this world don't really matter. So if we go back through those parables again with that viewpoint, trying to pull ourselves up one level and look back on those stories. In the first story, the person was saving for retirement, and the issue here wasn't that they were saving retirement, as my reading here, is that this person had enough grain to fill an entire silo. This was more than they could ever eat in a lifetime. Were they sharing any of that with their neighbors or their friends? No. It was just for them. They had hoarded to a point where their wealth would become the problem. We were no longer just trying to care for ourselves. I mean, Jesus didn't have a problem with the farms that were running later on and taking care of communities, but he does have a problem with this amount of hoarding for the self and myself alone issue. So we have a hoarding issue in that first one. But this doesn't matter, and that's what it's trying to say, because soon he's going to go to this realm, and all of that hoarding means nothing. In the lost coin, we talked about the value of that. She spent more than she found. Why? Because it was about restoring relationship. And the value of the relationship was more even than the coin that was lost. It was about the restoring action. Remember, it's a parable, so when we apply it to people, it's about that restoring and then celebrating that restoration. And we see that live out in the prodigal son story. That's why, even though my sympathies are with the second son, the restoring of that relationship, when that first son returned and was welcomed by the family, that restoring of relationship was worth more than just some silly coins on the table. That doesn't matter. This matters. The relationships matter. We see that in the fourth story, in the middle manager, the one that's very on the nose, because we watch that middle manager do what? Exchange this, which doesn't matter, for relationships with his neighbors, which does matter on this level, right? We see that really live out. And then, and on the final parable then is just trying so hard to say, for just a second, look at it from up here, right? Look at it from up here, and what matters here. And that's what it's all about. If we can, in our decisions around money and things like that, if we can try to pull ourselves up a level and look at it from here, that's what's kind of being asked of us. It's still hard. I gotta say, of all the sermons I've preached, that this one really challenges me. I still want to be comforted in this world, right? Is it really hard? And yet, what's Jesus saying? Am I seeking my own comfort over that of my neighbors? Am I caring for them when they have needs? Or am I just making sure that I have enough in my account? Like, it's challenging. It's challenging. But, put that out of the way and say, but today is World Communion Sunday as well. And this Sunday is one of those Sundays where we really focus on that level up here. That this relationship level stretches around the entire earth, stretches through time and stretches through space. And while that's true in every Communion Sunday that we do, this time we really want to focus on that. We really want to be intentional to think about the reach of that. That across all time and all space, we're neighbors with each other. And we need to take care of each other. It's one of those times when we do communion where the barriers between these worlds get awfully close. And we can feel it. We can feel that divine realm joining us here at this table. And all those who have come before sitting with us, and all those, one church over that way, and 4 churches that way, and 2 countries that way, are all coming together to be at one table. And who's at the head of that table but Christ, welcoming all of us. Amen.
Amen.